Welcome to Roundhouse Roulette, a Walker, Texas Ranger podcast. Each week we recap and review one of the 200 existing Walker, Texas Ranger episodes randomly selected by Roundhouse Roulette. I'm Evan Dalton, here with my brother Adam and our bro from another Mo, Mr. Bob Leahy. What's going on, guys?
Not much, dude.
Hey, just hanging in there.
Well, we hope you guys are all having a safe, hermetically sealed, super sterilized week. Our thoughts go out to all the essential workers and public servants, allowing us to discuss punches, kicks, and explosions from the safety of our own homes.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
So today we're going to be recapping and reviewing Season 6, Episode 2, Iceman. But first we want to address one of our most frequently asked questions. Where can I watch Walker, Texas Ranger? In the streaming era, Walker, Texas Ranger has kept a mean chokehold on TV syndication, bobbing and weaving like a ninja between your latest Western or all-night testosterone network. Sometimes it even graces the Hallmark Channel. Its predominantly standalone episode format and ginormous episode count have kept it in constant rotation since the show wrapped up in 2001. As such, it's one of the last streaming holdouts of its time. I guess maybe we should address how we're watching these episodes.
We all own the DVD sets,
Which can be picked up generally for fairly modest sums.
Now they have the complete series, which also includes the movie. They made a movie for TV, a reunion show that's only available with the full complete set of the series. But I mean, we were buying these as they came out, and oddly enough, they released the last season first. So that's the DVD set that we started off with, which does have some classics, but is definitely not prime filet mignon Walker.
I guess they figured if that one sold, then they would probably be able to sell the others.
You know, there's other options out there, guys. I just brought up a quick eBay search. We got some going for, let me see, $3.85. You can get the first season DVD.
All right.
Seven
totally
discs,
worth
is
it.
that right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, these shows are 40 minutes long. So
That's a good point, yeah.
If you're trying to watch along at home, your best bet is really to pick up any of the DVD sets. There's going to be some gold in there, and we'll help you navigate the waters. As Bob just said there are some DVD sets on eBay or used on Amazon that go between $5 to $15 for 24 hours worth of TV. That's definitely some bang for your buck.
Yeah, I just found the complete third season. The auction is ending in 1 hour and 3 minutes, and the current bid is, well, there's zero bids, 99 cents. Of course, it's $8.95 shipping, but with that taxes, you're talking a cool $10
Yeah.
for the whole third season.
And, you know, I'm the kind of guy that has a Walker, Texas Ranger alert on my eBay, so I'm always alerted to the best deals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, if you're getting into a bidding war, you can always do just snipe as well. I'm sure that's still running.
Yeah, the only other real option is to catch Walker in his native habitat of syndication, which if you Google Walker, Texas Ranger, they list the current showings. Crazily enough, some of the episodes we've already reviewed are being played this week. So I saw The Patriot was on there. So you may be able to DVR them and save them for later, and we're going to get to them eventually. So your two options are DVD sets on the cheap online. Unfortunately, Goodwill is probably not your best option right now. So just let that box sit on your doorstep for a few days. And believe me, Walker's not going to let anybody steal that set from you.
Yeah, it's true. If a porch pirate comes and tries to pick up the box, a fist will come out of the box and take him out.
Yeah, that would be like an awesome reality series if they literally just had Chuck Norris waiting for someone to steal a package off his porch, and then he just opens the door. One other thing I kind of wanted to bring up was that the new Walker, Texas Ranger, I've been reading a little bit more about it, and they're switching it from Dallas to Austin. So
What?
we're going to get some Austin hipsters in this new Walker.
That's
You
just.
think they
that's
actually
just-
film any of it in Austin?
I think so. And apparently the new Walker is from Texas, and the producer's from Texas, too. So they're all about it.
Yeah, but Austin isn't really Texas.
Ooh, another cool thing I read, Mitch Pileggi from X-Files is going to be Walker's dad. So he played Walter Skinner on X-Files.
Do you think they're going to take a road trip to Area 51?
We already know that Walker does that once already. So.
That's true. Can't wait for that one.
The truth is out there.
Like in sports, the next best thing to being at the game is talking about it around the water cooler. And since both sports and water cooler talk have cooled for the time being, the best thing might just be listening to your secondhand Roundhouse Roulette recap of the currently unstreamable Walker, Texas Ranger. If your DVR is as full of WTR as ours is, and you're watching along at home, hit pause and watch Season 6, Episode 2, Iceman. Welcome back. Let's dig into this one. Iceman originally aired on October 4th, 1997, and it very fittingly begins with a shot of convicts picking up garbage from the side of the road. Walker and Trevette, they pull up to a man fervently complaining about his community service. And we learn that this man is Charlie, who is apparently a recurring character. He's played by Terry Kaiser. You may know him better as Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's.
No.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
He did look familiar, but wow. Okay. I did not know that.
So I guess he's put in this episode to add humor. I think I'd be generous in saying that if we knew his backstory a bit better, we'd like him more, but I don't think so. He's mostly just there for groans. So he complains about his community service. Walker and Trevette are then called away, because, this often happens to Texas Rangers, to help with an FBI sting of an explosives expert known as the Iceman. Now, this bust goes awry, of course, and the Iceman is left hurt when his car blows up. And they realize that the Iceman looks exactly like Charlie, their friend. And so they decide to use Charlie as a stand-in lookalike to try and bust the Iceman's boss, George Vickers, who apparently is some sort of bank robber type dude.
Yeah.
Once again, though, their plan goes sideways, and Charlie's taken to Vickers directly and put to the test in his imitation of the Iceman. Now, these bad guys realize that he's not the real Iceman during their bank heist, when the real Iceman, who is self-liberated from the ICU, shows up. Left with only one clue, of course, Walker is the only one who realizes which bank is going to be robbed and goes all one-man army on a bunch of stunt doubles, while Charlie saves the day by snipping the right wire on a bomb with 0 seconds to go, and saves a mother and child that were clearly in the episode only to fill a few minutes of airtime. And the episode ends in a freeze frame, and there you go.
Wow. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up right there. Terry Kaiser, I mean, he was doing double duty, playing himself as Charlie, and then also playing the Iceman. And just one of those characters alone probably has as much time as Chuck Norris. So he literally had doubled the amount of screen time as Chuck Norris in this episode.
Definitely. And also I will say that Terry Kaiser played a merely 2-episode but very memorable role as H.G. Wells in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
Wow, man.
This guy's got quite the resume, huh?
It's got to be a 2-page IMDb.
You think he gets 2 paychecks for playing both characters in this show?
I should hope they paid him extra.
That'd have to be some SAG thing, right? Like the
Screen Actors Guild.
Right, yeah.
For the uninitiated, of course. I don't know. I guess this episode wasn't really what I was expecting from the title, or even from the back of the DVD description.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you got to say, the way it kicked off was pretty interesting. They literally go from some guys picking up trash to balls to the wall Walker. Literally just the drug bust you would expect at the end of the episode happens on the front.
Oh, yeah.
In the Iceman's holed up in his cottage, right?
Yeah, this is Texas. It's a ranch, not a cottage. Come on.
Right.
All right. So Iceman's all holed up in his ranch. He catches wind of some people on his property, and what happens?
Oh, it's pretty sweet. I mean, this is a great opener. So Walker and Trevette pull up, and they're like, all right, what's the sitch? And this FBI stooge is like, oh man, we got this bomb guy in here. He's known as he says AKA the Iceman. It's like, no one would say that. So they're like, oh, the Iceman. Okay, we got to get him. So they sneak in, a bunch of FBI guys, Walker and Trevette. And of course, even though Walker is wearing like the loudest bright red shirt imaginable, he's not the one who trips the alarm system. It's some FBI guy who trips some silent alarm. And so on the inside, the Iceman says to his crony, he's like, oh, check it out. And the guy's like, oh, we got company. And the Iceman's like, let's put on dinner or something like that. He throws something in a microwave and sets the microwave to exactly 1 minute. And then they sneak out the back door while Walker effortlessly kicks in the front door. They then go in, scouting around for anything, no signs of people. But then they look down, why is the microwave running? And the microwave's been ticking this whole time. And it keeps going down, and Walker looks inside and sees a rotating block that's clearly labeled C4.
He kind of takes his time, like looking at the microwave, kind of leans down, looks in, then the camera shows C4, and then he kind of looks back to him. He's like, "Oh yeah,
yeah." And he's like, "Hey, what's
not much urgency there."
Right.
But Walker, then he yells to everyone to get out. Right.
Yeah. Walker screams. He screams, "Bomb!"
Yeah. Bomb. How much time was left though? I feel like I'm looking at it right now. It was like. Yeah, it's 15 seconds left when he yells bomb. And then 2 seconds later in the episode, Walker is hurling himself through the picture window, followed quickly by flames and the whole house goes up.
The stunt double who jumped through that window with the explosion behind him was so much skinnier than Walker.
Oh, yeah. And his hat is down.
Yeah, his hat.
Guys,
that's totally Chuck Norris.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah. They make Chuck Norris cover his face so people like us can.
Yeah, and his skin was whiter too.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was scared. It was a bomb,
Yeah, the blood drained from the face,
Yeah. Now, I was wondering, why the bomb went off after 1 minute. I mean, you're throwing C4 in a microwave, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't take too many microwaves to, I don't know.
Right, it's like, exactly 1 minute will do it.
Yeah. It's like popcorn. It's the perfect pop.
I guess so.
So then a truck chase ensues. Is that what happens next here?
Oh my god. Yeah, so clearly as Walker and the FBI guys were all being distracted by the bomb, the Iceman and his crony were getting in their evil vehicle. Once again, not a Dodge. This time it's a GMC that could be chased by their Dodge Ram truck. And this GMC, POS, rumbles out of some shit.
It literally is a shitbox on wheels.
It rumbles out of a shed, collides. I wouldn't even say. I guess it collides
kind
with
of
a car.
Little body tap,
right? But before it can even do damage to the car that it hits, that car explodes, launching into the air. As this SUV just kind of slowly rumbles by it.
I have to say, at that moment, I was pretty sold on this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, okay, the house exploded as everyone jumped out of it, and then a car bumped another car, and that car exploded.
Yeah, so the Iceman in his SUV pulls ahead, and he decides he's going to thwart Walker, who's close behind in his Dodge truck with Trevette, by throwing grenades out the window at him. I think he does it maybe 2 or 3 times, each time with a pretty good explosion. I think he might have blown up a few cars along the way too.
Oh yeah, the last car they blow up, the explosion noise is amazing. It's somewhere between an explosion and a cougar growling. It's amazing. It's like, wow.
So the final coup de grace, the Iceman decides that he's going to blow himself up. Is that what happens?
So
Yeah.
he's pulls the pin, and then Walker sideswipes the GMC that the other guys are in, and he drops the grenade in his own car.
Okay. So Iceman ices himself, blows up his own vehicle, and is splayed out on the ground when Walker and Trevette come over, and they realize that the Iceman looks exactly like Charlie, the con who was doing community service at the beginning of the episode. Just coincidentally.
Yeah. How could we use this? Oh.
Yeah. Coincidence is a huge plot device in Walker.
Now, Iceman and Charlie, right? I mean, I was surprised to find out that he was Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, but when watching it, I was like, this guy looks like almost like Johnny Cash or like Rodney Crowell, like those two guys, like a really distinct look about him. But he kind of reminded me of Johnny Cash.
Well, I think it was probably his jacket.
He did later on in the episode. He did dress in black. But anyway, what happens next?
They roll the credits is what they do. But then they're back in the hospital. Did they find a note about the meeting? And then they're like, oh, we should get Charlie or whatever.
What was that device that they were using with the text? It was like a primitive pager.
Oh, yeah. I think they call it a personal computer.
Okay.
A PC. When it's folded up, though, it looks like an iPhone or like a big smartphone.
In a previous episode we watched, Trevette called it an HPC, which I think means handheld personal computer.
Ooh.
Okay. I think, in the first episode of Twin Peaks, Agent Cooper has the same thing and he writes something on it. It's just kind of like to write text on, though.
Yeah,
This just looked like a label maker.
right. Imagine it's like a
Chip
label
calculator.
maker made it with a calculator. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Iceman received a message on that calculator label maker before Walker and his cronies crashed the party. And that's what Walker and Trevette found. And in it was a message that there was going to be a meeting at the Roadhouse. Where was it at?
A Lone Star Bar or something like that.
And Walker's like, oh, yeah, I know where that is. Do you know how many Lone Star bars must be in Texas?
Just one.
Just one in that town.
Yeah.
But apparently 5 o'clock Lone Star Bar, sometime around there, it was going to go down. And they realized that Iceman looks exactly like their buddy Charlie, who was trying to knock some time off his community service. Now, I don't know if he's in jail or just has to do community service or what, but would you risk your life to go undercover just to get off community service?
Well, I thought the same thing, but at first he doesn't know that he's risking his life. But the more they talk about it, and when they start talking about like the bombs and how the guy pulls out the blasting cap with his teeth or
They
whatever.
teach him how to make a bomb.
At some point, the guy's got to go like, maybe community service is a better idea.
I know. He's like, well, this should be easy, right, Walker? And Walker just looks at him like,
Well,
this isn't
okay.
going to be easy. He doesn't say anything, but
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
this guy has no idea what he got himself into.
Cue the humorous music.
Oh, my gosh.
So they go to CD's bar, right? And that's where they talk to him about it. And then they end up back at the station. And that's when they're talking about the bombs and showing him everything. And he's going, and I had a couple of good quotes here. So Walker refers to the Iceman and goes, he's a real cool customer.
Well,
Basically saying that, he needs to act cooler. He needs to chill out and be cool.
Oh, yeah.
But just cool customer. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was good. It was real good.
And Charlie was offended. He's like, I am cool, Walker.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, Walker says that he's called the Iceman because he's a really cool customer. And then Charlie says he's a real crazy dude or something. And Walker's
He's
like,
a real wacko.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
guy's a real wacko.
and then Walker's like, that's why they call him the Iceman. It's like, what? Make up your mind.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
I heard that. I was like, what do you mean that's why they call him the Iceman? Ice?
Yeah, even him biting the explosive caps is how he became the Iceman. That still doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Well-
it is a cool name, though. I'm just going to give him that.
Another thing I noticed is that the producers of the show or the writers of the show they clearly only know like 3 parts of a bomb, or like two pieces of terminology about bombs. So they know about blasting caps, and we've heard them emphasize blasting caps in 2 of the 4 episodes we've watched so far. And then they talk about C4 all the time, and it's like, all right, guys, there's got to be something else to this. Like, yeah, we know what we're talking about. Blasting caps.
So technically, the writers of the show are just like Charlie when he's pretending to know stuff about bombs later in the episode.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Except when he was pretending to know about it, it had meaning.
After a quick training in how to build your own bombs, it was like a Build-A-Bear workshop for bombs inside the actual ranger station. Wouldn't you think if they're teaching somebody how to make a bomb that they wouldn't do it inside of like the courthouse?
Yeah,
right,
it's like in the bullpen, like the open area where everyone just walks around and he's just sitting there playing with bombs.
What if he accidentally lights one off?
Yeah.
Also, I have to believe that, the FBI would not necessarily... I mean, I could see the Texas Rangers getting behind, giving a criminal the ability to make a bomb, but, the FBI, they should know a bit better than that.
Yeah, no, I'd never fly. So off to the bar.
Off to the Lone Star Bar and Grill. Is that what it is?
Yep.
So, they're like, all right, you've already learned everything you need to know about explosives, and you know that you've got to be a cool customer. We're going to send you this drop-off point, and you're going to get all this intel for us. Don't worry, though, because we're going to just give you this microchip, and we're going to put it on the reverse side of your Texas tie.
Yeah, not even disguising it. It's like very clearly just like a tiny little microchip. Well, it's not even tiny. It's the size of his bolo. It's just on the other side of it.
Yeah, it looks like they broke the motherboard on an old computer and got like the smallest piece they could find, and then hot glued it to the reverse side of his Texas tie. And then they told him, this is new technology. It will be able to hear everything you say. Don't worry.
It's the latest in microprocessors.
And that's why they call him the Iceman.
Yeah.
So he goes in there, makes a fool of himself immediately, right?
He couldn't even order a drink correctly.
Yeah, and he gets taken outside, and you think, okay, here you go. This one, I thought he was going to just get killed, and the episode's going to go a completely different way.
I thought they knew he was totally fake when like they kind of were like, this guy's a joker, and we'll send 3 goons on him. And then they go outside, and you're like, oh, this whole bust is over because he's found out. But no, they lure these 3 goons outside, and Walker like drops down off the roof of this bar and just takes them out one by one, while Charlie is hiding in the dumpster.
There was a great around the corner kick to the face in this one too.
Yeah, that's good.
One of those, because the first guy he chokes him out, and then the second one, the guy's wandering around, just bam.
Yeah. And I think the last one is when he drops off the roof.
Yeah,
he's like Batman almost.
Onto the guy who's got the giant bald spot on the top of his head. Classic.
Definitely left a hoof mark on his head. But yeah, then Walker goes, all right, you can come out now, Charlie. How did Walker know he was in the dumpster? He was busy beating up people.
That was a cool
tracking
theme.
Skills.
Yeah. Or this episode had a lot of that. It was like kind of yuck, like Magnum PI kind of stuff going on.
It had a weird tone. It was a very weird tone, especially with Charlie, because Charlie was kind of like, I'm like, I feel like they want me to laugh at this, but it's really not funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
The whole episode.
That's it.
So that was one of the parts, and Walker's like, all right, you can come on out now, Charlie. And Charlie's like, are you sure, Walker? And he pokes his head out of the dumpster, and he's like, yep, now you're going to go back in there, and you're going to tell him that you beat these guys up, because nobody in the bar saw Walker do it, apparently. So they send it back in there, and sure enough, the guy thinks that Charlie's, pretty hard for what he just did. So Charlie does what he's told by Walker and says, tell your boss I want more money. Well, the guy goes, tell him yourself, pulls out a gun, and makes Charlie walk over to this, I don't know, like crotch rocket car.
It's this Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which, first time I saw that in the episode, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I get some money in this episode. We are in season 6, so.
Yeah. I was actually fascinated by the Lamborghini. I'm actually fascinated by this character that they created.
He's kind of like a bad guy middleman in this episode.
Oh yeah, but like Walker's got these guys in a lot of episodes where they usually have like a baby face. They have no physique, yet they're like, I guess
like mid-level boss, right?
Yeah, but like the episode's trying to make you think that they're like really tough.
Yeah.
You know, or like that they're like really legit, but they don't look convincing at all.
This guy was more Bebop to Shredder. You know.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. This guy's name is McGill, and he apparently has a penchant for fancy cars like Lamborghinis. Later on, we learned that he has 3 of them, but I noticed that this Lamborghini, not only is it a model from like the 1980s, but it's like the serious base model without automatic windows or anything.
Yeah, it had roll-up windows.
Right, and like
It did, yeah.
So it's like they're like, man, we need a really fancy car, but we just want to borrow someone's Lamborghini. And they're like, well, we got this cheap one over here. Okay.
Where were the other 3?
Crank windows in a Lamborghini.
I know, like if you've got 3 Lamborghinis, you'd think you could afford the one with automatic windows, but
Well, maybe not. Well, unfortunately for Charlie, his listening device that was on the back side of his Texas tie fell off accidentally around the scuffle there.
Hot glue didn't hold up.
Yeah, funnily enough, his safe word was hot, which he said like 80,000 times to try to get Walker, Trevette, and the FBI to come save him, but they couldn't hear him, and McGill got away with him.
So McGill takes him to some abandoned warehouse where he says, this is the farthest I go with you. He leaves Charlie alone. And then Charlie is picked up by George Vickers himself, along with some of his henchmen. And these henchmen are pretty tough guys.
Oh, most definitely.
And they're sizing up the Iceman.
They were kind of like in quasi almost military fatigues, but they're like in between, you know, a painting crew and military fatigues.
This is where Charlie learns that they're going to be doing some dry runs of their bank robbery, and he has to participate in those. It's like their bank robbers camp.
It's like laser tag. They all run around, they time everything to see, you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was like any good baseball team, you know, or a football team, you're rehearsing your play. They were rehearsing the bank robbery. That was another point where they were trying to make it really comical. Charlie, posing as the Iceman, had this mask on and was trying to carry all the explosive equipment and was really having a hard time about it, breathing heavily. I was waiting for them to actually have him blow something up, but they were just kind of like, oh, yep, that gives you 5 minutes to blow up the vault. We're good.
Right. So us running around this half burned down building with apparently no, you know, this has nothing to do with the building that they're going to, but that enables him to get a precise measurement of how long it's going to take. So
yeah,
good
absolutely.
work. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Then Charlie, he knows that Walker and Trevette have no idea where he is, and he's trying to delay this bank heist because he doesn't think he can actually make a bomb. So he says, hey, this C4 is no good. It's not going to work. It's too old. And of course, the guy who went to like Walmart and bought all this stuff is like, this is fresh. That's fresh stuff. And there's only one way to find out. Let's have you build a bomb right now. So I think it was like the same spot they were at, right? They were like, oh yeah, just make one. Well, I realized that the set they used was like one of those facilities that firefighters train at.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that concrete slab with all like the kind of windows built into it, that's like what firefighters train on. Mm-hmm. And that's where they lit off the bomb. And it was funny was they apparently had them light this bomb inside the structure that the firefighters normally train on. But later the explosion was this pile of rubble in front of it.
There also happened to be a safe in this facility.
Yeah, of course.
Because that's what he has to blow up, which is, you know, practice for the real thing. So there's a safe there.
So in kind of a comical fashion, he uses too much C4 and the bomb does go off. And everyone thinks he's crazy, but he kind of just plays it off that, I'm the Iceman. And they kind of like, okay, well, don't do anything like that on the heist. Let's get out of here. And Charlie leaves, I think, like his pocket computer with a message on it for Trevette and Walker at the scene.
We forgot about Walker going to that guy's shop, because at the same time that they were going through their little training exercise,
yeah,
Walker and Trevette go to the guy, the that mid-level boss guy.
McGill.
Oh yeah, McGill.
And there's a fight scene there, so.
Yeah, they show up at McGill's place, and of course they show up, and it's like clearly a chop shop, and it's like if you're running a chop shop, don't park 3 exotic cars out front. That just seems like bad form. But they're like, oh, he's clearly here, so his crappy '80s Lamborghini's parked out front.
Well, maybe he got the doors from a Chevette or something for that.
Yeah. It could be custom.
Possibly. So, he goes in there, and there's some guys, like sanding down cars or whatever. And he's and Walker's like, I need to talk with you, McGill. And McGill just says to the guys working the shop, get him.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. I think they were kind of like, what are you waiting for? Get him!
And the guys
they know what to do.
They have no hesitation whatsoever.
They know exactly
they
what
start
to do.
attacking him with tools. And it's like, what? It's like, this guy is a law enforcement officer, right? So, you don't question anything. You just all right, I'll assault him. Sure.
And Trevette is kind of comically trying to kick down a steel frame door at the beginning, and you're like, dude, you're never gonna get in there. So Walker's kicking everybody's ass, and at the end, Trevette busts down the steel frame door. It was reinforced, right?
Yeah.
It was like one of those industrial doors. He busts it down, okay, and it falls on top of McGill and knocks him out, and that's how they get him. And now that I say this out loud, there was a sound effect there of him busting the door open as if the sound was like wood breaking.
Of course. My favorite part of this, Walker walks in and goes, McGill, we need to talk. He goes, will you get him? And this random guy who's working on a car has looks like a sander or grinder or something, and just turns to Walker and goes after him. It's random mechanics that, imagine you're a mechanic and your boss is just someone walks in and attack him.
I thought you said help him. I'm sorry.
There's another guy with a comically large wrench. It's like Super Mario size wrench. One thing we're neglecting to talk about, which I think is maybe one of the highlights of this episode, is the really atrocious transitions between things.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too.
That leads me to my question. There's a scene where, what's the mother and son's name? Do you have those names?
Nobody cares. Those characters
Ross and Erica Sloan, the biggest throwaway characters out there.
How do these characters get introduced? So it's this mother with a male haircut and her son who's got probably about 5 years old, and they're sitting in a kitchen and he's playing with a toy airplane, and you're like, okay, really? Do we have to put up with this storyline? What's going on here? And then they pan over. And Vickers is there. What is he doing there? How does he know them?
He selling her a timeshare or something?
No. He's it really got buried in the rest of the episode because they're completely not necessary. Their whole purpose. Well, he's trying to get them. Yeah, it makes no sense. He tells them that they win a vacation at a resort. They don't question it at all and say, "Great." But then later on in the episode, when they're packing up to leave for the vacation, the goons show up and kidnap her. That makes more sense
because, I guess I missed that he was selling them a vacation because he sold them the vacation. That means he would know when they were leaving for the vacation, which means he could just have his goon squad come and pick them up on time. So that makes a little bit more sense. These writers are good.
I wouldn't go that far.
So they introduce a mother and son. And the main bad guy, Vickers, the bank robber, is selling him a fake vacation. And it turns out that she works at the bank that they're trying to rob. And there's a tender scene with the mother saying goodbye to the security guard at the front desk of this bank before she goes off to vacation. And you're like, man, this is the stupidest conversation I've ever seen. She's telling this guy bye. And it's this guard in a blue security uniform. And you're like, okay, are we done here? Flash to
No, it's not flash. It's zoom rapidly with a sound effect.
Yeah, I was like shocked because like I was like whiplash because you have this tender conversation with the security guard, and then whiplash to a police officer being shot in the same spot that you were just looking at on the other cop.
Mm-hmm. Except
with
it's a mannequin
semi-automatic
during
weapon.
their dry run of the bank run. Yeah, the zoom transitions are insane. The first time we see the daughter and son, she's just like trying to leave work, and he's like, "Can we go home?" And she's like, "Oh, I have to stay at work a little bit longer. Sorry, honey." And he's like, "That's okay." And then it goes, it's like rapidly zooms into like a skyline or something. And you're like, "What the hell just happened?"
And there was like one where it looked like they were moving the camera and this. What I couldn't even tell what kind of transition that was.
Yeah, there's one where it like zooms in it zooms in and transitions to a city skyline, but like it's clear that it zoomed into the wrong building, and then it zooms into another building.
Trying to get that building quick.
Right. Oh, so good.
We're back at the woman's house, right? When they get picked up, and right before that, the kid's like, "What is he?" He says something like,
"When's Daddy?
When's Daddy coming back?" It's like, what the hell are we getting into?
They were trying to be like,
for?
"Oh, he doesn't have a dad," and they were trying to have a tender moment between mother and son, and they did kind of do a real lukewarm, tender moment, and immediately after ending that moment, bad guys with Uzis pull into the driveway and kidnap him.
Oh yeah.
Yep. The GMC shows up.
That's important backstory because it's Texas, and if she had a husband, he'd be home with a shotgun, ready to defend against those people.
I don't know. I think
they once again the writers are on it.
I think they were just setting that up for a replacement daddy maybe later. Maybe we'll get to that.
All right, so they kidnap the mother and son for the sole purpose of her basically getting them past the initial front door. That's it. Which they very easily could have just done in a different way, but whatever.
But the security guard's like, "I thought you were going away this weekend."
Yeah.
Right.
That was one of the points where I go, "What? Who cares about all this stupid?" Halfway through the episode, I'm thinking, "Man, there's a lot of dialogue here. This is like, it's fun because it's just pointless." But eventually, it's like, get on with it.
Why did they even? They're like, "Oh, we better tie up this loose end. People are really going to be worrying about the security guard not remembering she was going on vacation."
Yeah, they're really going real over the top there.
We really should get back to the Iceman because the real Iceman, not Charlie, who's faking being the Iceman, he's in the hospital. He's on ice for most of the episode. The security guard guarding the Iceman looked like Jack Porkins from Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
He's out front. They have one security guard. He's in there, and he unplugs his heart monitor, and people think he's dying, so they rush in there, and they're about to shock his heart. And right before they do...
This is great.
It's pretty sweet.
They're about to slam 2 live defibrillators down on him, and he pushes them onto the male nurse's neck and electrocutes him, and then escapes and easily takes out Jack Porkins on his way out.
Yep.
And gets his gun, of course.
Oh, yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem because Charlie is impersonating the Iceman and currently fooling the people who are robbing the bank, which is it's a convoluted plot line here. But anyway, how does this kind of unravel?
Well, I guess they leave Charlie, fake Iceman, to guard the woman and her son, and he lets them go and then tries to make a phone call but doesn't have a quarter, and they catch him before he's able to make the phone call to Walker, and the Iceman shows up and grabs the mother and son, and that's when they decide to go through with the bank robbery because no one's caught them yet, which seemed like pretty sound logic right there. Right. Well, they probably would have caught us, so let's just do it.
They're like, they've got an informant and they haven't caught us yet, and that means they don't know where he is, so let's go through with the heist as planned.
And quite frankly, they would have got away with it if it weren't for Walker winning every time. He finally decoded what Charlie was trying to tell them through some really stupid code on his handheld personal computer.
It's Palm Pilot.
Yeah, and so Walker goes, once again, like I said, being a Texas Ranger is 95% hunches, 5% punches. So he goes on his hunch and checks out Travis Towers, and it's a one-man wrecking crew named Walker.
One of the bad guys is impersonating the guards, right?
At the front desk.
He lets Walker in. Oh, what seems to be the problem? He's playing cool, whatever. And then Walker's walking in front of him or something, and he hears him grab his gun, and immediately just takes him out.
Yeah, Roundhouse kicks his hand.
Yeah.
So he takes out 2 of the guards, and just like 2 out of the 4 episodes we've done so far mentioned blasting caps. This is the second of the 4 we've watched so far where he appropriates the walkie-talkie and lets the bad guys know that Walker has entered the building.
I think he's done that in 3 of the episodes so far.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, you're totally right. He did it with the TV station, and he did it on the oil rig.
Yeah. So of the 4 episodes we've watched, he uses a walkie-talkie to intimidate the people he's going after.
Honestly, though, I didn't even notice because it's so awesome when he does it.
Oh, man.
When Charlie has a minute alone with the mother and her kid, he's like, "Oh yeah, do you like these airplanes?" And, he's like being nice to them, just saying, just be cool, everything's gonna be fine. And starts talking about the kid about this airplane.
Does your dad like planes?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have a dad.
He's like, "What do you mean you don't have a dad? Let me dig in a little bit more here."
You're like, yeah, catch a hint, dude. You're not too swift.
Yeah,
but what was that flashback? When he started talking about the plane, and all of a sudden it goes to Charlie. I don't know if he was flying or what, but Charlie getting in a plane crash.
That was totally irrelevant.
That plane crash is actually from another Walker Texas Ranger episode.
That's what I was,
where he's in a plane crash with Walker, and they crash in the woods, and they're being hunted down.
So this is actually an episode he does bring somebody back from.
Yeah, he's a recurring character. This is his 3rd episode. But the first one is in that plane crash. I believe the plane crash is the one where Walker not only saves everyone on the plane, thwarts some guys. He thwarts a Native American tracker. Oh, that episode
that was
is so
a great
good.
One. I can't wait to see that.
And at the end, delivers a baby.
No.
Yes. Yeah. We gotta watch that episode. Well, we gotta get there sometime.
We'll hope the wheel lands on it.
So really, that scene was literally just to say this guy's been in another episode before.
Yep.
And the whole plot device with the kid liking airplanes was just to get to show that flashback scene.
Wow. Maybe.
Anyway, though, he's trying to say, hey, guys, don't worry. I'm not really a bad guy. Oh, you like planes, little boy? Where's your dad? Oh, you don't have a dad? What do you mean you don't have a dad? Everybody has a dad. Oh.
Where is he?
Oh, okay. Oh, you
He's
like
not around.
planes. And then one of the goons comes in and says, oh, hey, you're supposed to be making bombs, not hanging out with our captives here, palling around with them. And he goes, I'm not palling around with these guys. It takes the kid's toy plane and cracks it on the ground. Stomps on it.
Yeah, that kid has every right to hate that man.
He's going to need therapy.
Weird interactions aside, Walker goes in and pretty systematically takes out, it's a pretty small crew, so he takes out the 3 other guys. He very easily sees through the Iceman impersonating Charlie.
Yeah, which we all saw coming, that they're going to do the little switcheroo and be like, oh, the bad guy's going to dress in the good guy's clothing and try to fool him, that kind of thing. And Walker was way ahead of us.
Yep. He punches him out and says, sorry, out of handcuffs.
And then he takes his gun and lifts both of them into the frame.
Yes.
That was tasty. That was
true.
probably one of the best moments.
Which is great because then all of a sudden he has 2 handguns and you're like, oh, that's badass. But then they come in handy.
Walker, 2 guns in hand, walks around the corner, and what happens, Evan?
Vickers is now holding Erica and Ross hostage in the bank vault. And we don't know what happened, but Charlie is dazed and on the floor. I'm assuming that that footage got dropped on the cutting room floor is my guess.
Iceman probably gave him the ice.
Yeah, they should have kept that in and gotten rid of the airplane scene with the child. But
no, because that really set up the ending of the episode, actually. So
yeah, they could have cut the ending out too, but you know. So yeah, he's like, you got to lay down your gun or else I'll shoot them.
Shoot the mother and son.
Right.
So George
right.
Vickers is holding the mother and son hostage and using them to try to get out from Walker's clutches.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, there's also a bomb on the wall right there counting down.
Oh, yeah.
So at some point, everyone would have been blown up, including Vickers. I don't really understand how that works, but Walker lays down one gun, but remember he has two, so he tucked the other one in his belt. We would say that comes in handy, but he doesn't actually use it.
Yeah. Yeah, because when the other guy comes out with the wife and kid or whatever, Charlie's right there and gets him,
and then Walker pins him to the ground, but Walker's preoccupied, so Walker can't dismantle the bomb. So it's on Charlie, who had maybe about a 20-minute lesson in building bombs, to save everybody from this bomb that's about to go off. Luckily, he clips the right wire.
What time was on the clock when he does that? I think it's
probably
zero,
666.
Zero.
Yeah, 0 seconds left.
And the really cheap digital time face on the front makes a noise like a nuclear reactor being shut down. It's like, woo. Also, when Walker's fighting Vickers, he pushes him through like a glass window, and it's clearly a stunt double wearing like the worst bald cap wig imaginable. It's so egregious. It's really bad.
Erica and Ross are saved, and Charlie saves the day. Flash to CD's Bar and Grill, where they're all just like, "We did it again, didn't we, guys?"
Let's dig in some peanuts and potato chips.
Now, maybe because of his insensitivity for asking that poor boy where his father was like 80 times, he bought him a remote control airplane. And then it seems like they're setting him up to be like his foster dad.
Yeah, that was the end of a completely unneeded storyline.
Yeah, it kind of was a weird thing. If you don't see this episode, this ex-con being your foster dad, it just was kind of unsettling, right? It was just something a little off about it.
You mean Bernie?
He's Bernie.
Yeah.
So
Imagine having Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's as your foster dad. You know, you can pretty much take him wherever you want.
Yeah,
that's true.
So then he sits down. Charlie sits down. Charlie sits down next to Walker at the bar, and Walker just sits there, and Charlie just goes like, "Yeah, how about that, Walker? You and me, we're a great team." Walker's about to say something, and that just freeze frame, end of the episode.
And he goes, "You and I have got a lot in common."
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd say mercifully, but the damage was already done.
Well, that about sums up the episode. Let's turn to the stats here. There was a good amount of action in this episode, a lot more than some, but there were 0 roundhouse kicks.
Yeah, that's going to hurt the score in the end.
Definitely. There were plenty of fights, explosions, vehicle chase. What would you categorize the bad guy of this episode as?
It's kind of weird. Vickers, he's kind of like the brains behind the operation, but he's also in the middle of it all, too. And he's kidnapping people.
He's a bank robber when it comes down to it.
In the end, he's a bank robber.
But at the same time, there's also a mad bomber aspect to it, too, because Iceman's a mad bomber.
True.
And then you got a bank robber. So I think that's kind of maybe a dual bad guy.
For sure.
Because if Mad Bomber's turning you on, this might be the episode for you. And I would hate to not have that stat on there for Mad Bomber fans out there. And we know there are some more Mad Bomber episodes coming up. So
Explosions is really good, too. This one had 5 explosions. That's over the top.
Would you consider each grenade an explosion? That was my thing.
I thought about that, and looking back at them, definitely.
Because they actually did make them light up.
Right.
And in the last episode, the grenades didn't do nearly enough.
Well, those are indoor grenades. That's the difference. There was 5 explosions in the first 5 minutes, wasn't there?
No,
the house, and then all the grenades he threw out.
Right, that's basically
3. That's 4 right there.
And the car hitting the thing. Where do you guys think the last credit was from the opening credits?
This one was funny in that I kind of forgot to pay attention when I was watching it.
It was too good.
But then they showed up again randomly. And I think it was later than I expected, but I don't remember the exact time.
11 minutes, 12 seconds.
I believe it. They just kept sneaking in, and it was like, oh, the credits must have already finished.
Let's get to the rating, guys. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate this episode, Evan?
This is a tough one. This is Season 6, Episode 2. Now, we just have come off watching 2 episodes from Season 5. And my initial impression when the first 10 minutes of this episode was that the budget for this season was much higher. They blew up a ton of stuff. Does that mean that the episode's better? Maybe.
Yes.
That being said, the bad guys themselves, they didn't really stand out for me. It did have the one-man army aspect of it, where Walker takes out a whole building full of bad guys, which is pretty sick. Lots of explosions, really bad dialogue. I think a couple of the storylines really were terrible, like the mother and son. And quite frankly, the returning character, he wasn't funny or anything. I would give this, I guess, a 7.
Bob, what do you got?
Well, you stole my number. That's exactly what I was going to say. 7. And after watching it, I think personally, from what I look for in Walker, Texas Ranger, this might even be a 9. But if I'm looking at it from a somewhat objective point of view, it's a 7. It's a 7 because I like how all those ridiculous, all these unnecessary backstories just keep coming up, but they don't take up that much time. So you're just like, the episode moves so quickly that I didn't even care. In fact, I just thought it was funny that these things kept coming up. But yeah, objectively looking at it, you're like, okay, that's really ridiculous. And the lack of roundhouse kicks,
right?
That doesn't help.
I felt this way about several of the episodes. It's like they're trying to fit the entire movie Die Hard into 40 minutes. And so the backstories suffer, like everything else suffers, and it's just like a bunch of explosions and nonsensical fights.
Which
is kind of the best.
That's
right.
Yeah, it's what you go for. I'm really conflicted about this episode because when I watched it last night, I didn't like it at all. Mainly because the flow of the episode was broken up by Charlie, and Charlie really neutered every scene that Walker was in. He made it into like a joke that wasn't funny, and thus killed any badassery that was happening in the show to me. And I honestly enjoyed watching last week's episode more than this one for that reason. There were some really awesome fights and explosions in this one, a lot more than last week's episode, but some like outlandish thing like God resurrecting a child didn't happen in this episode. And that for me is what I look for. It's something so outlandish that I'm just like, what is going on here? So I was kind of prepared to give this a really low rating, but here's the deal. The reason we gave last week's episode such a low rating was it wasn't a Walker, Texas Ranger episode. And this most definitely was a Walker, Texas Ranger episode. It wouldn't be the one that I would recommend to people mainly because of Charlie. He kind of just weaves in and out of the episode and sucks out all the air. I honestly was prepared to give this a 4, but I'm going to give it a 5.
Harsh, but I agree with your reasoning. So that brings us to 6.3 repeating boots to the face. And I say repeating because it's an infinite number of 3s, but also much in the way that roundhouse kicks are often repeated many times in an episode. Well, I think we can all agree Iceman proved redemption is just one undercover mission away. And your new dad just might be a reformed con. Let us know what you think on social media or by emailing us at roundhouseroulette@gmail.com. When we come back, we'll spin the Roundhouse Roulette to select next week's episode. And we're back. Bob, you ready to spin that wheel?
Season 4, Episode 20, Behind the Badge.
Ooh.
When the Rangers are chosen to star in a TV episode of Police Report, Trevette's attempts to impress an attractive reporter are stymied by the action surrounding Walker's search for a wanted fugitive.
Sounds good.
Wow.
That's not what I would have guessed.
No, same here. All right, well, we hope you'll join us next week when we share our reactions to Season 4, Episode 20, Behind the Badge. Share your opinions with us on Facebook and Instagram at Roundhouse Roulette and Twitter at RoundhousePod. And rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Until next week, may the eyes of the Ranger be upon you.
When you're in Texas, look behind you. Oh, 'cause that's where the Ranger's gonna be.